yourself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. Thank you so much for the kind words from everybody in the chat. I did manage to catch the fans forum last night as well. The passing of my mum hit us all very hard, and thank you for your kind words. On to Newcastle United. Well, men against boys at the weekend. We always knew it was going to be difficult, Ross, against Manchester City. Following on from the Liverpool game, 5-0. Fair reflection on the game from your perspective?
Yeah, I think so. I was watching it on the bus, on the coach on the way back from York. I'd been down to York for the day with my daughter for her athletics, so I was watching it on my phone on the way back on the coach. And I suppose after an early kind of first 10-15 minutes when Newcastle really started quite well and missed that great chance, Chris Wood missed that golden opportunity. After that, it was men against boys. The class of Man City kind of told, and as we feared it would, as we thought it would. If Newcastle scored, you never know, it might have been a different game. And I don't know, 5-0 was it a fair reflection? Probably not. Maybe it not necessarily flattered them, but it was on Newcastle. But yeah, men against boys. It showed the golfing class between the two teams. Not something that we are necessarily surprised about. Everybody knows how strong City are, and everybody knows that they're more than likely to win a fourth title in 5 years. They are one of the outstanding teams of the Premier League. Full stop for me. They're an outstanding team of this generation. So it's no disgrace in getting beaten by them, but you would have liked to have made it a little bit more competitive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, probably an unfair scoreline in the sense that they got a couple of late goals, and Newcastle, of course, did manage to create a little chance. The irony, I guess, after the hoo-ha that was saw on social media last week of Saint-Maximin claims, obviously came out with a big statement saying that his comments were taken out of context in an interview. But the irony, of course, that he put a ball in, which Chris Wood, should have finished really. He could have put it either side of the keeper; it would have gone in. But unfortunately, it was quite a weak header, and that was a chance gone begging, really.
Yeah, it was kind of written, wasn't it? In that, what Saint-Maximin had said, it kind of came true. He does have this ability to create chances, but we've talked about it, every week so far about the lack of quality, really, that lack of cutting edge at the top end of the pitch, and that was never more evident than on Sunday. And when you come up against teams like City, you're only going to get 2 or 3 chances at best, and you've got to make sure that you take them. If that goal had gone in, if Wood had scored, it might have been a different game. It might not have been as well. City would have quite clearly could have just stepped their game up and gone on and won by 3 or 4 still. But you're always in the game when you've got top quality strikers, when you've got top quality forwards, when you've got players who can pinch a goal, who can turn a game, who can create something out of nothing. And unfortunately, that's where Newcastle are lacking at the minute. That's where they're really going to need to strengthen in the summer, I think.
100%. Tom Dixon, of course, mentions it was great to see Trippier and Callum Wilson back at the weekend. I think it's split opinions, really. I think some people think that, maybe why risk them, especially in a game against Man City. They've both had, long-term injuries. Why not just keep them, ticking over and in training and keep them for next season, wrap them in cotton wool. But I guess it's just good, for Newcastle fans to be able to see these players before the end of the season. And I doubt Kieran Trippier or Callum Wilson would want to spend another second, on the bench.
No, exactly. They both had a long enough time out. I thought it was the right decision, bring them on with 20, 25 minutes to go, get them a little bit of a taste of the action in a game where it wasn't tight by that point, and it wasn't, the game had gone by then, so it was a bit of a free hit, get some minutes under their legs. I thought Wilson looked quite sharp. I thought his movement was decent, and on another day he could have got a couple of goals, but that lack of match match sharpness, that lack of game time, probably cost him with those kind of couple of chances that he had. Kieran Trippier is going to be a massive player for Newcastle next season, so great to see him back on the pitch again. He looked at times he looked solid, other times he looked a little bit rusty. You know, Jack Grealish burst past him in the latter stages, but that's what you want. You want to get players back up to speed, get them a couple of games between now and the end of the season, and then they'll be in a better position come the start of pre-season for hitting the ground running next year.
Yeah, I agree. Tom Lynch asks a question. Don't forget, if you want to ask a question, just stick it in the chat on YouTube and we will try and get to it as quickly as we can. Regarding strikers, what would you do with Wilson? He says, I'd keep him. But I think with his injury record, we obviously need at least one, possibly two quality, reliable strikers. Should he be the first choice or should he be backup? Great question, Tom.
It is a great question. Callum Wilson's done fantastically well for the club ever since he joined, but you just can't get enough games out of him. He can't keep him on the pitch regularly enough. If he was going to be playing 35, 40 games a season regular, then you know he may be well in with a shout of being the first choice striker. But for me, given his fitness record, given his reliability, given that Newcastle want to push into that top 10 and top 8 and further in the next couple of 3 seasons, I think you really need to go out and buy a top quality striker. If you've got somebody like Callum Wilson, who's second or third choice coming off the bench, then that's not a bad position to be in, if we're being honest. And in a lot stronger position than what the club's been in recent years. But I think you've got to buy a top quality striker in the summer.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Wilson will play a part, and I still think Wood will be part of the equation then. But yeah, I would agree, bringing probably one or two goal scorers in, not strikers, goal scorers. As Malcolm McDonald often says on a Thursday, goal scorers are people who put the ball in the back of the net, and that's what we need. Tom thinks that Wilson's problems could be alleviated with training ground updates. But will the likes of hydrotherapy pools, etc., be in place for next season? That's the plan, Tom, apparently. Haven't seen the plans as yet, but that is the plan, apparently. And let's face it, Ross, an upgrade is needed. It's not the worst in the world, but it's light years behind some of the training grounds that, the clubs who want to be chasing European football have got.
Oh, it's miles behind. It's miles behind. Some of it, some people have been fortunate enough to go to different training grounds around the country, whether it's for whatever reasons, and you can see some of the facilities that some of the top clubs in the Premier League clubs, but also some of the Championship clubs have. The facilities are absolutely top draw. Newcastle's have lagged behind now for a good decade, I suppose. We've all seen the famous pictures of the kind of the paddling pools and relaxing in those and trying to get the recuperate after training sessions and games. It's needed a massive overhaul for a while. I don't think this is going to make a difference. The upgrades, absolutely, it'll make a difference, but I think it's just a temporary measure to get them up to a certain level before looking at moving into something more bespoke and something more fitting of a club of Newcastle's size and stature and Premier League experience now.
Ghostly Apparition on Twitter. That's actually the definition of my surname, Ghostly Apparition. Anyway, his question was, seems Nunez is headed to Man United. Any clues as to Newcastle's likely strikers and how many? And of course, breaking news tonight is that Erling Haaland has agreed to sign for Manchester City. So 2 big names already, it would appear, on their way to Manchester. Any chance, of bringing a big name to the Northeast? We've already said we need them. Any chance of bringing one?
Nunez is a real interesting one because he's been linked with Newcastle for a long time now, and obviously they did have a look at him in January, and it would have been fantastic if they had managed to get him in January. If we're being brutally honest, it's unrealistic to be able, I think, to get somebody of his quality now. The amount of goals he scored in the Champions League, he's obviously highly in demand, and Newcastle can't offer Champions League football or European football yet to players of that caliber. So they're going to go elsewhere, and that's going to be the problem until Newcastle do get into Europe. Is being able to attract those really big names. You've got to be able to offer them something. Now, look, Newcastle have obviously got a lot of money behind the club now, and you know, as a club that can offer different salaries and more money and all that sort of stuff. But it's not going to, for me, I don't think it's at the minute it's going to be a game changer in terms of the money, because, you know, players can, Erling Haaland can go to Man City and get 350 grand a week, and you know, players can go to Man United and get 250, 300 grand a week, Arsenal, so on and so forth. So they can get good money elsewhere, but what they also get at those clubs is European football. So Newcastle are going to have to temper their expectations a little bit and move into a different market that's slightly below that kind of top echelon, that top level. But I've got no doubt at all that they will bring in a good sized name and smash that transfer record in the summer to buy a really top draw striker.
Yep. Okay. As we progress through the summer, we will be doing a transfer show, so keep your eyes open for that. I'm sure we'll be separating the wheat from the chaff. Geordie Toomba Life says, did you notice the cross came from the right? If ASM had been on the left, that wouldn't have happened, in my opinion. Ant D says, what a waste of a top chance. He should have ducked and let Big Joe score behind him. I've got to be honest, you know, if Joelinton didn't call for that, then there's something wrong, because that was his all day, in my honest opinion. And I genuinely felt, you know, that would be, you know, a goal all day. Lascelles is bungle in disguise. I mean, didn't cover himself in glory, Lascelles. He's certainly not a fan's favourite, and he's certainly one of those names that's been linked with a departure lounge. I mean, you know, is it too early still to talk about that? I would say Kieran Clark is already out the door, I would say, but I think, you know, Lascelles, is that a 50-50, Ross? Or do you think that Lascelles could be heading back to Forest, as was linked in the newspapers last week?
I would be surprised if Lascelles went in the summer. I think there's probably another season in him at Newcastle. He's still club captain, whether you think that he should be captain next season or not. I think most people have got an opinion on that. I think most people, you know, have got an opinion on whether he should still be around next season and whether he's good enough. It's whether they go for, it's the old saying, isn't it, evolution or revolution this summer. And if they're looking to bring in a couple of centre halves in the summer, then there's a chance that he'll be gone, because you've got Fabian Schär, you've got Dan Burn as your first choices. Lascelles is almost your backup at the minute to those. Kieran Clark will be away. Federico Fernandez will be away in the summer. So Lascelles is kind of number 3 at the minute in that pecking order. If they bring in 2, then he's probably down to number 5. If they're just looking to bring in 1, then he's probably going to be 4th choice. I think he gets a little bit unfair stick. Look, I don't think he's the greatest player in the world in terms of Premier League quality, and I understand why fans want better in there than what Lascelles can offer. But he has shown, for me, leadership skills over the last 3, 4, 5 years that he's been here. I can't remember how many years it's been that he's been here now, and he took on a lot of responsibility at a young age, and he's done a very decent job for the club, in my opinion. The club now needs to move on. There's no doubt about that, and they will move on. And people of his playing standards will fall away and will be jettisoned as the club progresses. But I don't think that should disguise the fact that he has done a decent job for Newcastle over a period of seasons. Yeah,
most certainly has. And put his head above the parapet. After a relegation season, and been involved in some good days. Maybe the criticism of him needs to be a bit more considered. Tom Dixon, getting back to the strikers, says, question with Man City agreeing to sign Holland. Would you go for Gabriel Jesus from Man City?
In a heartbeat, I would.
I'd love to see
absolute heartbeat. Yeah, absolute heartbeat. Get another Brazilian in. Get another one of the Samba squad in. Will be. I think he's a good player. I think that's probably the level that Newcastle should be looking at. Where he's not top level, and he's not good enough for Man City to go where they want to be. They're looking at your Haalands and whatever, but he's that next level down. Again, you wouldn't be able to offer him European football, which he might want, someone like that. And I know Arsenal are very keen on him as well. So you'd have to be battling somebody like Arsenal who can offer potentially Champions League football and everything else that comes with it. But yeah, I would take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, sell Wood in the summer. He is awful, says Trulls. I don't think we'll be selling Wood in the summer. I know people have to say short term. I think he's short term. I don't think that will happen. Lascelles, Hayden, Longstaff, Kraft, Gale, Hendricks, Murphy would be the first cull if it was me. None of them are good enough, even on their day. I'd disagree with Murphy because I think he'll be developed by how. Kraft, because I think he's done exceptionally well in the absence of Trippier. And I would say potentially, depending on which Longstaff you're going on about there, bit too late with Sean because I think he's staying. I think Matty Longstaff will go. What's your thoughts, Ross, on those names?
Yeah, again, you're not gonna. You need squad players in your squad, so I can see a lot of those players won't be necessarily in a first choice 11 for Newcastle when the new season starts. They're not going to be in a first choice 11 of a team that needs to get into the top 8 or top 10 even. You know, let's be realistic. At top 10, top 8, they're not going to be your kind of your first choices. But you know, Kraft's come in and done a decent job in Trippier's absence. You need backup players. You can't jet us in the full lot. You know, Hendricks will go, no doubt at all. Jimi Hendrix, he'll go. I think that, you know, Sean Longstaff, he's staying. Again, he's not a bad backup in that midfield area. Lascelles we've talked about. Murphy, they're all decent backup players. It's just you've got to bring in enough quality players to push them further down the pecking order for starters. I think Hayden will probably be on his way. Dwight Gale, absolutely. You know, Dwight Gale doesn't get a sniff now, so he's not going to get a sniff next season when they bring 2 more in. So yeah, they're the types of players that will fall away, but I wouldn't expect to see all of them leaving the summer.
No, I see we're linked with Solanke, says Troll. If we get him, I'm starting to doubt how. Don't get fooled by all the names being linked. That's what I would say on that. Andrew says, let's let the Manchester City enjoy their last thumping of us. Things are going to change. I would hope so. Geordie Toombalay says, I don't think Nunez will sign for Man U as their transfer fund isn't as big as most fans wanted. It's around 100 million. I think you meant 100 million. I'm going to guess that, not £100. So they won't blow most of it on Nunez. Andrew also says he wishes he also was hoping to see Haaland in a Toon shirt. AJ says he can't take much more of Lascelles. He's a nice lad, but he can't play the ball and he gets dragged out of position. And Geordie Toombalay says we need a couple of midfield players in the summer, someone box to box and with pace. Arsenal coming up, and midfield looks weak with Shelvey and Willock missing. Would you agree with that?
I think the midfield's really, it's a real conundrum, I think, for Eddie Howe next season, because he's obviously got Bruno, who's head and shoulders above the others. It's what role he gives him in that midfield. Does he make him the kind of the fulcrum in the middle of a 3, or does he, you know, or is it that position still Shelvey's? And when Shelvey's fit, he's going to play Bruno slightly to the right. Joelinton's got a huge season coming up now. Joelinton's been fantastic. He's turned his Newcastle United career around for me and for many people, and kind of almost reinvented himself as this midfielder. He now needs to learn that position and develop that position and do it very, very quickly, because is he going to be a box-to-box midfielder, Joelinton? Is he going to be someone who's going to get in that box, arrive late, Frank Lampard style, score goals? I'm not sure. Is he going to be a bit more of a destroyer who's going to win them second balls and do that kind of physical element? What type of midfielder is he going to be, and how does he fit into that system? Because Newcastle do need more goals from midfield, but you can't just be playing, you know, 2 or 3 kind of defensive destroyers in there. They need to be a little bit more progressive than that. So Joelinton's role in it is going to be interesting. Arsenal, to come back to the Arsenal conversation, it's another massive game at the weekend. You know, it's not on the Liverpool and Man City level of difficulty, but it's still a tough game. They're not 4th in the league just by pure chance. They are a very good team, and Mikel Arteta has done a decent job there. They've got a lot of young players with a lot of energy and a lot of legs. It'll be a real tough game that again on the weekend.
Tom says, question, Ross, what's your thoughts on Elliot Anderson? Would you keep him or loan him out again? He's been magnificent for Bristol Rovers, getting them promoted. Yeah, seen the seller, you know, the nice tweet he put out. He was delighted. He's had a great time down there. He's gained a lot of experience, and he's turned out to be the star of that team.
Oh, he's a fantastic talent, and you know, people have known about his ability and his talent for a while now. Absolutely the right move for him to get out on loan this season and get that game time under his belt at Bristol Rovers. I think for next season, I think he'll obviously come back and he'll do pre-season with Newcastle, and I would expect him to be in and around the squad for the first couple of months until that kind of, and then they'll make a decision around the transfer window, around the transfer deadline. See how close he is and how much he's progressed and how close he is to that first team squad. If he's not, and I would expect him probably not to be quite there just yet. It might be that he needs another loan out, but for me, they should be looking now at getting him into the Championship if they're going to be loaning him out. There's no point in him playing in League Two. He's proven he's too good for that level, more than good enough for that level. I would be looking to get him into a Championship team and seeing how he copes with the extra pace, how he copes with the extra physicality, the extra step up in standard at the Championship level, and give him a good 3 or 4 months at a good solid Championship club where he's going to play regular.
Chantel says Nottingham Forest want to buy Lascelles back. From what I've seen, yeah, I saw that as well. I think we say to Lascelles, thanks for your service and all the best, says Tom. Trulls says we need to put sentiment aside in the summer. And Ian says, I saw a stat, 8 of our current squad were in the 2016 promotion season. It's true. That's the level of the lack of activity, through our previous owner. Stephen says, really, leadership, he is a joke. He is not a captain, and reckons that Howe's going to be ruthless this summer. Richie and Lascelles will go with the usual suspects, Hendrick, Gale, Clark, and about 3 more. Ryan, good evening. He says, Ross, I think ASM's totally overrated. Coutinho could do much better. In my opinion, totally off, or do you think I'm talking sense?
The old ASM dilemma,
which goes on and on and on.
It does. Look, I said a couple of weeks ago, if they got a decent offer in the summer, I would sell ASM. I would. I don't think he's the right fit for the team. I don't think he's the right fit for Eddie Howe. I'm not saying he's overrated, but he just frustrates, and he does a lot of good things. Where he does a lot of things where you think, you're 24, 25 now. Is that being coached? Are you going to improve with much more coaching? I'm not sure. I'll be honest, Coutinho not for me. I think, I don't think he was in the Villa side at the weekend. I don't know if he'll start tonight. You would expect him to maybe start tonight against Liverpool, his old club, but I think he flatters a little bit. ASM will flatter, but Coutinho will flatter as well. So, but I do think if you're talking about that kind of position, that they do need a creative attacking threat. Whether it's a Christian Eriksen or a Jesse Lingard or someone of that kind of description who kind of picks up them places in between the midfield and the attack and create things and get a couple of goals. I do think that they need a player of that kind of ilk in the summer as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Stephen says, what's your thoughts on ASM? Do you think we could sell him? I think there'd be plenty of takers.
Oh, yeah, definitely plenty of takers. It's, again, it depends. I go on about the upgrade of the squad and this evolution against revolution. Would he be one of the first ones that Eddie Howe and the club will look to get rid of, or would they look to keep him and get rid of a Miguel Almiron, for example, before him? It might depend on who comes in. If somebody comes in with a big enough offer, which he will have clubs definitely interested in him. If somebody comes in with a big enough offer, I wouldn't be surprised if they cashed in on him.
Jordy Tumbalay says, we definitely need an upgrade on Dubravka. He's made more mistakes this season than any I can remember. Also, his injury record's not great. Get Henderson in either on loan or buy. And again, this is something that's come up time and time again on the show. There was a goalkeeping error at the weekend. I mean, he spilled the ball, but I mean, there was errors across the pitch. And sometimes I think it's unfair just to pick him out. I do think we need somebody to give him some competition, Ross. We don't have competition in the goalkeeping stakes at the moment. Bring somebody in to give him competition, but keep him as number one for the time being and see how he does against, at the start of the season. And then, competition is healthy, isn't it?
It is. And again, it's going to be another one to keep an eye on because, despite what Eddie Howe might have said in press conferences, after the transfer window closed, though there was a little bit of interest in Dean Henderson, and they did look at potentially bringing in another keeper in January. Whether it's going to be a priority in the summer, I don't know, but I do think you're absolutely right. There's, with no disrespect to the other goalkeepers at the club, they're not putting any pressure on Dubravka. They're not good enough to challenge. Carl Darlow again's done a decent job and being a good servant over the time, but he's not going to be a number one at a top 8 Premier League club or top 6 Premier League club, which is where Newcastle ultimately want to get, and want to get there fairly quickly as well. So they do need to bring in somebody, whether it's this summer or not. But it was a horrible mistake at the weekend. It was poor, and he's like any keeper, isn't he? He pulls off some great saves and then does drop the odd howler, which gets highlighted a little bit more because of the position it's in. But yeah, I reckon they need a little bit more competition to push him on a bit more.
Yep, I would agree. I think most people do as well. Before we give a shout out to the sponsors, we did get this last week. I'm pretty sure you'll have seen it. Dave Fairless, when I asked for questions, Ross said, "Why do hot dogs come in jars of 8, but hot dog buns come in packs of 6, mate? Any idea?"
That stumped me. I've been looking in all the supermarkets over the last week for Dave to see if I can find packs of hot dog buns in 8, and he's right. He's absolutely right. I know Dave. I know him quite well. He's not always right. He's often fairly wrong, but he's got that one spot on. So I'm glad you give that one a shout out. It's one. The broken clocks always right twice a day, and that's what Mr. Fairless is there.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it's good. I thought we're going into the rounds of the Liam Kennedy show there, because I know that he often used to get certain people on who would ask certain questions, and who knows, maybe he's got another question which he wants to ask. Contact us on Twitter, mate. We will ask Ross that question. Big thanks out to our sponsors, Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from the guys, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies all at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks for your support, lads, and thanks for your messages over the last day or two. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and a Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp, and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegouhd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Cleekai, meet the new Game Over screen. Drop into a Clearrun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology side of things. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, please do. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, which helps us with the promotion of the show. Click share to your social media, and drop into a comment box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to put a comment up on the screen. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. If you want to become a member, then hit the join button on YouTube. It's quite easy to do. Or go to the website, nufcmatters.com. You can either type in the website and click membership, or go to the QR code on your smartphone. Takes you straight there. What do you get for your money? Well, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, and you get a car sticker as well. And you get that if you subscribe. Hit the subscription button, get a free car sticker by emailing john@nufcmatters.com. Don't forget as well, we do support the food bank on this channel, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The Matchday Bucket is virtual and it is operational 365 days of the year, and always there to take your money for the food bank. Don't forget, we've got a summer do. Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin, Friday the 24th of June. Tickets are £12 and it's at Shearer's Bar. It's St James's Park. NUFCmatters.com for those tickets. There was a winner of the ball. John will no doubt let me know before the end of the show, and I will announce it. We have got another Shearer ball up for grabs, though. Limited to 99 tickets, $2.99 to enter the raffle for the Alan Shearer signed 260 ball. And don't forget, the Food Bank t-shirt is still on my Twitter. Place a bid. We will be announcing the winner of that on the live show on Friday, the Amigos, which is at a later time on Friday of 6:30. Steve Hasty's working a little bit later, so we are going to start the show at 6:30 till 8:30 on Friday night. Okay, back to your questions. Roger, he says, Miggy's stats are nearly woeful. Do you think he's the fundamental ability to improve a lot with better players? Almiron, will he stay or will he go?
I think he'll be away in the summer. I really do. I think he'll be one. I think he'll be one of the casualties of the summer. He'll maybe move to Spain or abroad or whatever. I don't think Eddie Howe's got the faith or trust in him. I don't think he thinks he's going to be one of those players who can help take him onto that next level. Interesting player, Miggy. You know, when Rafa had him initially with that front three of Miggy and Perez and Rondon, he looked a real threat. He's definitely got something about him, but I think his time at Newcastle may be nearing an end.
Okay, I'd happily keep Kraft, says Tom. Supporting what I said. Very good player, plays well under Howe. Was poor under Bruce. Funny that. Yeah, there's a few players like that. Longstaff is awful. Which one? I presume you mean Sean. He wasn't in the last 2 games. Don't get why he stays. Hopefully it's just sell-on value for Longstaff. Doesn't deserve any more times, says Ryan. Not many Longstaff fans on here for various reasons. Colin says we can bring several top players in, no problem, but keeping them all happy will not be easy if they're not playing every game, and that is true. We do need a defensive midfielder as well, Roger. I would agree. It just depends on the formation, I guess, as well, that Eddie Howe is going to play. You want a changeable team, in my opinion. So AJ asks the question, what's your thoughts on Shelby? Is it time to replace him? I would say his days have got to be numbered as well, but Eddie Howe seemed to get on with him. Maybe that was just for this season. Shelby, is he going to stay or go, do you think?
I think he'll probably stay. I think he's probably got another season in him under Eddie Howe. Look, I've not been a Shelby fan over the years. I make no bones about that. You know, I've said it a number of times, but you can't fault, I don't think, the way he's performed since Eddie Howe came in, since Christmas. He's been very, very consistent and very good. I think Eddie Howe likes him, and I think he'll certainly be around next season. And he's going to have to keep. He's one of those who he's going to have to keep improving. He's going to have to keep his levels high. We've seen this with Shelby before. For me, is when he's capable of putting good runs of performances together, and then the drop off a cliff sometimes. So he's got to keep those levels high. If he does, he's got the ability. It's just having that consistency. So I think he'll certainly be around for next season, and then it's up to him to whether he keeps his place in the team, I suppose.
Yeah, on Joelinton, I wish he'd change his bloody studs. Just watched him on Monday. Watch on Monday how many times he falls over. I have noticed that, I've got to be honest. Not with just Joelinton. I've got a lot of players. Clearly picking the wrong footwear at times. Ross, basics.
These blades, isn't it? It's these blades. Blades. Yeah. Go back old school. Go back to the old screw-in studs and see how they get on with those.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. Andrew says he'd love to see Howe bring Anderson back in and use him next season. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he does with Anderson. It could be another loan, but let us see. Trolls says, if I'd have done the same job in a workplace as Longstaff does on the pitch, I would have been fired months ago. Oof, Trolls, you're not a Longstaff fan at all. Paul, yes, it was nice to meet you, mate. Good to see you across there. And Andrew says, bringing on 1 or 2 young'uns can only encourage local kids to join Newcastle rather than go elsewhere. Find the next Gaza, please. Yeah, it's a good shout, that, isn't it, Ross? I mean, you're seeing Geordie's in the team.
Absolutely. That's what we all want. That's what we want to see, the club have a really successful academy and young players come through. And Longstaff's getting a load of grief on here, and I understand that. But it'd be great if one of the Longstaffs could nail that first team first team place, because I think that's what we all want. Nice to see Paul Dummer getting an extension on his contract and or a new contract. Another local lad. We don't have many. We haven't had many come through the academy in recent years and kind of nail that kind of first team place. And they've got to be there on merit. They shouldn't just be in there because they're from the region, they're from the area. But we go back to the 90s when we had Lee Clark and Robbie Elliott and Alan Thompson and Steve Howie and Steve Watson and that crop of young players who came through and who were good enough as well. And I think the fans can connect with them really well. They can get behind them. It would be fantastic if we could get a few more through that academy. Hopefully, Elliot Anderson will be the first one and can start that ball rolling again. The academy does need a little bit of work. There's no doubt about that. They do need to improve the record when you look at it compared to other academies around the area in terms of producing young talent. But yeah, I think we'd all like to see a few more local lads making the transition through into the first team.
Christian Eriksen, I mean, he's done relatively well at Brentford, hasn't he? Gone there, but I can't see him coming to Newcastle.
No, I think he's done fantastic. It's such a great story, coming back from the issues, the heart issues that he had. Such a really positive story, and I've watched him a few times, and he's been very, very good. He's playing in a Brentford team that kind of suits him and lets him almost dictate. I think he'll probably have a few clubs sniffing around him in the summer, and be interesting to see where he ends up. A part of me hopes that he sticks with Brentford, just because they were the ones who were quite willing to give him a chance and take a bit of a gamble on him and his health and his fitness. So yeah, just a really, really good story, and I would actually love to see him at St James's.
Trolls lives abroad and says it's the same here. 10 buns in a pack and 8 hot dogs in a pack. So there we go. Mike says it's strange about ESM as he passes when he shouldn't and doesn't when he should. It's a psychological thing. He says, yeah, you can't change that. You genuinely really can't change that. Tom says, do you want to see Jesse Lingard at Newcastle next season, Ross?
Yes. Yeah, I think he'd be a good addition. I think he's one of them ones that could who are of that level where, as long as he's got the hunger and he's got the desire, and he showed that when he went to West Ham on loan, and if he can reproduce that form that he showed when he leaves Man United, I think he's not a bad shout to help Newcastle jump that next level into that kind of top 8. He's certainly got ability. He's certainly got goals from midfield or them kind of wide areas wherever you want to play him. I don't think he's the worst option in the world. I think I'd quite like to see him at Newcastle next season. Congratulations to Vince Smith. It was him who won the last Shearer Ball, so well done, mate. We will wing that to you as soon as we can. And Trolls just continuing to talk about different players. No, he said he thinks he's as good as Marnie and not better, but he shouldn't have said that, in my opinion. There's a conversation going on there, which I'm not privy to, so we'll skip that. Ryan says, I'd approve Shelby Sale. Also, his attitude over the years has been, in my opinion, disgraceful. Preference is golf, so he should retire and play that. That's harsh, mate. But yeah, I think his days are numbered. It has to be said. Ryan says, well, I compared ESM and Marnie stats. Marnie at Southampton, and Marnie got more goals and assists, and same assists roughly in one less season. So he's not better. That is ridiculous. So that's the argument. Okay, I've got you now. I can see that. Even Man City were throwing 3 players at ESM and smothering and rob the ball. Now this is the other side of the ESM argument. A lot of people feel that he's closed down. He's overmarked by players, and people took a screenshot of him on TV where there was 8 players around, and that doesn't happen every game. Is there a cause for a defence for ESM in that respect, that he's maybe overmarked because of the threat that he poses? 100%. Look, I'm not against ESM. I think he's super talented. He's one of the few players, probably the only player at Newcastle at the minute who will get fans out of their seats, who will excite, who will produce some magic, and he's definitely a talent. but my argument is whether he's producing enough with that talent, whether he's making the right decision. So if he's got 3 men on him, is he releasing that ball quick enough? Is he keep coming inside into trouble? So it's not necessarily, he might get the ball and he's only got 1 man to beat, but then because he slows it down and comes back inside, all of a sudden it gives opposition teams a chance to regroup. I think, look, there's certainly a talented player in there, and he could go elsewhere and absolutely rip the league up, whatever, be a real star for somebody else. It's just, if I'm asking my opinion, I think the club needs to move on from him, and they need to get in players who are more consistent, who fit into Eddie Howe's plans and style of play a little bit better. But I completely understand why some fans, I completely understand why the argument rages on about him, because he is such a talented player.
Yeah, it's going to continue to rage on as well. There is no doubt about that. Do you think Joelinton's got a future at Newcastle if we sign the class players that we all want, says Stephen?
Yeah, it goes back to what I said earlier about Joelinton. I think the season coming up is a big season for him, because if he's reinvented himself as this midfield player now, what type of midfield player is he, and how does he fit into it, and what's he going to produce? For me, he's been Newcastle player of the season, so he's definitely got a future, and it'd be great to see him how he adapts to that midfield role, how he learns it. He's only been playing it for a matter of months, really, and certainly in the Premier League. So he's still learning it, and it's how quickly he progresses and develops hopefully into a box-to-box midfielder who contributes at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah, I would agree on that as well. Plenty of comments coming in on ASM. If ASM is overmarked, pass and move. Simple, really, says Geordie Tuned by Life. Roger says, for me, ASM's skills have been worked out by other teams, double, treble teamed, and he is fully found out. Ryan says, that's what's so frustrating about him, though. He can do it, but refuse to do it. Also quote from the French national team, ASM. And Andy says, simple to pass, but it's mind-boggling. Not the ASM. It is Miggy or ASM, says Trolls. Oh, dear me, how 2 completely different players, aren't they, Ross?
Oh yeah. It's an interesting one. I'll probably still go with ASM. I think he's the more talented one of the 2. Miggy's a great kind of team player, but lacks a little bit of end product as well. Again, I keep saying it, but if you're gonna hit that top 8, are these 2 players, are Miggy Almiron and Allan Saint-Maximin, are they going to take you into the top 8 or top 6? Where would they get? If you look at other clubs' squad, if you look at Arsenal, if you look at Spurs, if you look at Chelsea, would they get into any of these teams? I don't think they would. I really don't think they would. So if Newcastle are decisive enough about getting into that top 6 in the next 3 seasons, then I don't think those players are going to take you there.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Andrew says, you have been a great addition to the show, Ross.
Thanks, Mum. You didn't have to call yourself Andrew.
Ryan says, that doesn't have to be the option, though, Trolls. If we had no money, then fair enough, but we can easily replace both. Just again, it's an ongoing argument. It's good, and that's what this is all about, a debate. Vince Smith has donated his Shearer ball to the food bank, which is fantastic. Vince, brilliant. Great of you to do that, mate, and I will make sure that the guys at the food bank get that and do what they want with it. Roger says, Joelinton, J7, as we've called him on this show for many months, has been class since Eddie Howe arrived. Yet I agree, Ross. What is the best position? Box to box or barn door?
He's a big old unit, isn't he? Maybe he will turn out to be a kind of a midfield destroyer, if you like. Someone who sits in front of the back 4 and kind of, his ball retention is great. The way he picks up those second balls and uses his physical presence has been really, really impressive. There's definitely a role for him. It's going to be interesting to see how Eddie Howe wants to wants to use him over the next 12 months, because he's going to develop. Hopefully, he will learn that role a little bit more, and he'd love to see him as a box to box, midfielder. But has he got the finishing ability to be that kind of the player arriving late in the box and putting them in? Against Norwich, he scored twice, but we've seen. Let's be fair, we've seen Joelinton miss his fair share of chances over the last couple of years as well. So love to see him really kick on and develop, because I think he's a great character. I think his attitude is absolutely superb. He's never gone hiding, even during these tough times at Newcastle. I'd love to see him be a huge success at the club.
I guess he could be the defensive midfield player that we're looking for.
He could. He's got all the ability. He's got all not the ability. He's got all the attributes. He's got, he's big. He's strong. He wins second balls. He puts his foot in. He wins his headers. Then can he develop? Can he then start to, I suppose, dictate games? Can he get around he gets around the pitch? Can he, look at the best defensive centre midfielders in the country at the minute. I would say your Declan Rices and your N'Golo Kantes and people of that ilk. He's got a lot of going to get up with them, but there's no reason to stop him from developing as a really good option in that midfield, and maybe it will be in that defensive role, Steve.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That is, something to look at again. Do you think Newcastle are still after Dan Ashworth, and is there any latest news on him? Says Tom.
I think it's just waiting for his contract and his garden leave and everything to work its way through. It's just a process. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I've not heard anything different on Dan Ashworth. I think he's still going to come in. They've just got to be a little bit patient, a little bit more patient than what the Mary's initially hoped, and it's going to take a little bit longer than what they initially hoped.
Yeah, and I think it's down to money as well. Why pay, a ridiculous severance fee if you can get them for cheaper a couple of months later? I think that's what it's. All down to. If we get someone better, I'm all for it, but I have a feeling that's going to be hard. Trolls going to be a hard transfer window. There's no doubt about that, because there's a lot of competition out there. But Newcastle are at least at the table now, which they weren't under Ashley. Doug Hall says, what I can't understand, if ASM is surrounded, why doesn't he just switch play? Football isn't complicated. It's frustrating. Yeah, I think a lot of people would probably give ASM another chance and like to see him stay if he did maybe, change his game a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if ASM's game does pick up with new players, says Colin. Certainly. Stephen says, Joelinton's a beast. He's as strong as an ox. He is class. I never thought I would say that. So fair play. Vince says, just look at J7's stats since dropping to midfield. Yep, we have to do that as well. Ant says, I thought by now my grin would have stopped since October the 7th, but I can't stop smiling. What a summer to look forward to. Bring it on. And that is, it's good to have that kind of positivity, isn't it, Ross? And that's what's different about this summer transfer window.
Oh, 100%. You the fact that you're in a conversation about Nunez, or you're in a conversation about, Gabriel Jesus or Jesse Lingard or whoever it is, that's just fantastic. We're having conversations about whether ASM's the right player to take the club into the top 6, top 8. Well, if we'd been having this conversation a year ago, the mere thought of getting rid of ASM would have been, you would have been hung, drawn and quartered, because he was the one shining light. But the club's got so much positivity going around. It's going to be a really exciting summer, and I know there's going to be, already there has been, dozens and dozens of names thrown at the club, and a lot of that will be agent driven. Agents who see Newcastle as being not necessarily a gravy train, but being a good next step for their players, for their clients. So they're going to try to push them onto the club. The club's obviously got a little bit of money to spend, or a lot of money to spend, depending on what you believe. So it's going to be a really exciting summer, and it's just great to be in that conversation again. It's great to be thinking about breaking transfer records and signing this player and that player, and not just look who we're going to bring in on the last day of the transfer window on loan on a freebie from somewhere.
We've got to wait until November for Dan Ashworth, says BT. Yeah, I would say so. Brilliant watch. Thank you, Stephen. Brighton could be biting their nose off on this one. Far better agree. A fair fee, says Colin. And Troll says, over the moon, we can say he might come instead of saying maybe we can loan Chowdhury, which is, again, a positive way of looking at it. The basics done by City embarrassed us 1-2 straight through us many times, says Roger, just getting back to the game. I'm not an ASM fan, but I'll say give him another season and see what Howe can do with him, says Andrew. Tom says he watched last night's game. Who do you think will win in the playoffs? Yeah, Sunderland at Wembley. They've got Wickham at Wembley. Is this their fight? Is this their opportunity now to get back to the Championship?
Yeah, massive opportunity for them. I thought it was a good game last night. I kind of caught the last 20-25 minutes. It was end to end, and it looked like Sheff Wales were gonna get that late goal, but Sunderland have made a habit in recent weeks of scoring injury time goals, which fair play to them. Big contrasting styles. Wickham are a horrible team to watch. Don't expect a decent game at Wembley because some of the way that they set up and play isn't the greatest. So I don't think Sunderland. I think if Sunderland had said at the start of the playoffs, so you're going to play Wickham in the final, then Sheff Wales are a good team. MK Dons are a good team. Wickham are probably the weakest team out of that playoff mix. So they've got a golden opportunity now.
Yep. Merseyside Mag says, hi, Stephen Ross. Any news about Ashley's court case with Amanda regarding a supposed loan? Keep your chin up and thoughts with you. Thank you, Merseyside Mags. Yeah, it's gone quiet on that. I mean, was that just a bit of, I don't know, media gesturing, or is that gone any further? Have you heard anything on that?
I've not heard anything, Steve. No, I wouldn't be able to answer on that one. I've not heard anything more than what was last reported, I'm afraid.
Yes, it's very much a case of, watch this space. Now, Newcastle have a game coming up on Monday next, and Newcastle take on Arsenal at St James's Park, a game that's going to be covered once again on TV. You'll be able to see it live on Sky Sports. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff. We will be at the Dog and Parrot, me and Supermac, pre-match and after-match. Very early for team news, unfortunately. It's still best part of 6 days away. Kieran Trippier and Callum Wilson, of course, both return at Man City. Should both be available for selection. Ryan Fraser, Shelby and Willock are all expected to miss the game. And the fitness of Fabian Schär is still unknown. The referee is Darren England, which is the second game in charge of a Newcastle fixture. And he took charge of the 1-1 draw at Crystal Palace. On VAR, it's Jared Gillett. And big game this, really. But I think a lot of it will depend, Ross, on what happens in the North London derby this week. Because if Arsenal beat Tottenham, that's it. They've clinched the fourth place. They've clinched the Champions League position. Arsenal come to Newcastle with nothing to play for, and Newcastle have nothing to play for either. So ultimately, it might be a little bit different. Should Spurs get a win, or the two teams draw, I think it's Thursday, we might see a bit of a humdinger on Monday because Arsenal are going to have to come and get the points. They are.
I think in some ways it could almost benefit Newcastle, I think, because if Arsenal are desperate for a win, then there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. It's going to be squeaky bum time for Arsenal because they've had a few opportunities. They've lost games that they should have won. Then they've gone and won games where you kind of written them off. So they were a team that's obviously desperate to get into the Champions League. Like I said earlier, I think Miguel Arteta has done a really, really good job there. The fact that they're back in that kind of Champions League mix with the young players that they've got coming through, your Smith Rose and your Sakas and Ketty has started banging the goals in again. If you're looking at a striker possibly available in the summer, would fans be willing to sign Eddie Nketiah if he came up for grabs? He's out of contract on a free, so they've got a good mix of some good experienced players. I think it's got all the makings of being an absolute cracker, Steve. I really do. Under the lights, St James's, nighttime game. I think it could be an absolute cracker.
Always difficult to give a prediction this far in advance, but you're saying it's going to be a cracker. Are you going for a high score and draw, Ross? Or are you going for a Newcastle win?
Yeah, high score on top. Draw maybe's a good, a twos each. And I think it really could be a great game. We've said it's been a free hit for Newcastle against Liverpool and Man City. I think we would have all been very surprised if we got something out of those two games, just because of the caliber of those two teams. The absolutely outstanding teams, Liverpool and Man City. Arsenal aren't an outstanding team; they're a good team, but this is a game where Newcastle can certainly go into it with confidence of getting a good result, maybe even pinching it. So there's nothing to be afraid of for this one. I hope they absolutely go for it. The crowd will be up for it, and it could be like I say, a belter of a game.
Great stuff as always. Good insight, and thanks very much for joining us on a show which has been difficult for me, Ross. I've got to be perfectly honest, but it has given us a bit of support from the chat and everybody out there. I'll be back tomorrow, 6 o'clock, same time, with Geordie's here, Geordie's there, with a good panel of my good friends talking about Newcastle United. But once again, Ross, thanks for jumping on tonight, mate. It means a lot, and speak to you next week, mate. Take care.
You too, Steve. Take care, mate. Have a good one.